What if I told you that two simple foods, things you can find in almost any kitchen, have the power to break down arterial plaque in ways that rival some of the most commonly prescribed medications? And what if these foods don't just help your heart, but actually work at the root of the problem? The inflammation, the oxidation, the silent damage happening inside your arteries right now, even if you feel completely fine. Because here's the truth most people don't realize. Arterial plaque doesn't suddenly appear overnight. It builds slowly, silently, year after year. You don't feel it, you don't see it, until one day it shows up as high blood pressure, chest tightness, fatigue, or worse, a heart attack or stroke. And by then, the damage has already been happening for decades. Now, medications like statins are often prescribed to lower cholesterol, and yes, they can play an important role for many people, but they don't fix everything. They don't completely eliminate plaque, and they don't always address the underlying inflammation that causes the buildup in the first place. That's where nutrition becomes incredibly powerful. Today, I'm going to walk you through two specific foods that research and clinical experience consistently point to as powerful tools for improving arterial health. And the reason they're so effective isn't just because they lower cholesterol, it's because they target multiple mechanisms at once, reducing inflammation, preventing oxidation, improving blood flow, and even helping stabilize existing plaque so it's less likely to rupture. So if you care about your heart, your energy, your long-term health, or if you've ever been told your cholesterol is high, you'll want to pay very close attention to this. Let's start with the first food, and this one might surprise you because it's so simple, so common, and yet incredibly powerful when used correctly. Garlic. Not garlic supplements, not garlic-flavored products. I'm talking about real, raw, or lightly cooked garlic. When you crush or chop garlic, something interesting happens. A compound called allicin is formed. This compound is one of the most potent natural substances for cardiovascular health. It has been shown to reduce inflammation inside the arteries, lower blood pressure, and most importantly, help prevent the oxidation of LDL cholesterol. And this is where things get critical to understand. LDL cholesterol itself is not the enemy. The real problem begins when LDL becomes oxidized. That's when it starts sticking to the walls of your arteries, triggering an inflammatory response, and gradually forming plaque. Garlic directly interferes with this process. It acts like a protective shield, reducing oxidative stress and making it harder for plaque to form in the first place. But that's not all. Garlic also improves nitric oxide production in your body. Nitric oxide is a molecule that helps your blood vessels relax and widen. When your arteries are more flexible and open, blood flows more easily, pressure decreases, and the risk of damage to the arterial walls goes down significantly. Think of it like this. Stiff, narrow arteries are like old, rusty pipes. They're more likely to crack, clog, and cause problems. But when those arteries are relaxed and flexible, everything flows smoothly. Garlic helps restore that flexibility. And there's another layer to this that most people overlook. Garlic has natural anti-platelet properties. That means it helps prevent excessive blood clotting. Now, this doesn't mean it will thin your blood like medication, but it does help reduce the likelihood of dangerous clot formation, especially in already narrowed arteries. So when you put all of this together, reduced oxidation, improved blood flow, lower inflammation, and better vascular flexibility, you start to see why garlic is so powerful. Now, here's the key. How you use garlic matters. If you cook garlic at very high temperatures for too long, you destroy a lot of its active compounds. The best way to use it is to crush or chop it and let it sit for about 10 minutes before cooking. This allows the allicin to fully develop. Then you can add it to your meals at the end of cooking, or use it raw in dressings, sauces, or spreads. Even small amounts, used consistently, can make a significant difference over time. And consistency is everything here. This isn't about one magical meal. It's about daily habits that gradually shift your internal environment toward healing instead of damage. Now let's move to the second food, and this one is often misunderstood, sometimes even avoided by people trying to eat low fat. But it may be one of the most powerful tools you have for protecting your arteries. Extra virgin olive oil, not refined oil, not light olive oil. Real, high-quality extra virgin olive oil. This is a cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet, which is consistently associated with lower rates of heart disease, longer lifespan, and better overall health. But what makes olive oil so effective isn't just its fat content. It's the type of fat and the presence of powerful antioxidants called polyphenols. These polyphenols do something remarkable inside your body. They reduce inflammation at the cellular level. They protect your blood vessels from oxidative stress, and they help stabilize existing plaque, making it less likely to rupture. And this is extremely important, because most heart attacks don't happen just because of plaque buildup. They happen when plaque becomes unstable and ruptures, triggering a clot that blocks blood flow. Olive oil helps reduce that risk. It also improves HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol, which plays a role in transporting excess cholesterol away from your arteries and back to the liver for processing. But there's something even more interesting. Olive oil has been shown to improve endothelial function. The endothelium is the inner lining of your blood vessels. When it's healthy, your arteries can expand and contract properly, regulate blood flow, and prevent inflammation. When it's damaged, everything starts to go wrong. Olive oil helps restore that function. And just like garlic, olive oil also increases nitric oxide availability, improving circulation and reducing pressure on your arterial walls. Now, here's where people often make a mistake. They either avoid fats completely because they think fat equals cholesterol, or they use low-quality oils that are highly processed and oxidized, which actually contribute to inflammation instead of reducing it. The quality of the oil matters. Real extra virgin olive oil should have a slightly bitter, peppery taste. That bitterness is a sign of high polyphenol content. It means you're getting those protective compounds that make the biggest difference. And just like with garlic, consistency matters more than quantity. You don't need to drink large amounts. Just replacing unhealthy fats with a few tablespoons of high-quality olive oil each day can have a measurable impact over time. Now, let's take a step back and connect the dots. Both of these foods, garlic and olive oil, work on multiple levels. They don't just target one number on a blood test. They improve the entire environment inside your arteries. They reduce inflammation. They prevent oxidation. They improve blood flow. They support the health of your blood vessel lining. And they help stabilize plaque. This is why they can be so powerful when used consistently as part of a balanced lifestyle. But there's something important I want to be very clear about. This is not about replacing your medication without medical guidance. If you've been prescribed statins or any other medication, you should always talk to your doctor before making changes. What this is about is giving your body additional support. It's about using nutrition as a tool to enhance your health, not replace professional care. Because the reality is, your body is constantly trying to heal itself. Every day it's repairing damage, balancing systems, and adapting to what you give it. The question is, are you giving it what it needs to do that effectively? Or are you unknowingly feeding the processes that lead to more damage? Because plaque buildup is not just about cholesterol. It's about chronic inflammation, poor diet, lack of movement, stress, and oxidative damage over time. And the good news is, those are things you can influence. You don't have to wait for a diagnosis to start taking care of your arteries. You can start today. You can start by adding crushed garlic to your meals. You can start by switching to high-quality olive oil. You can start by making small, consistent changes that add up over weeks, months, and years. And here's something else to think about. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is direction. Because even small improvements in arterial health can lead to significant reductions in risk over time. Your body responds to patterns. What you do every day matters far more than what you do occasionally. So if you take anything away from this, let it be this idea that your daily choices are shaping your health in ways you may not immediately see, but will definitely feel in the long run. And when you focus on foods that actively support your body, foods that reduce inflammation, improve circulation, and protect your cells, you're not just preventing disease, you're building resilience. You're creating an internal environment where your body can function the way it was designed to, where your heart doesn't have to work as hard, where your arteries stay flexible and strong, where your risk of serious complications goes down. And all of that starts with something as simple as what you put on your plate today. Because sometimes, the most powerful changes don't come from something complicated or expensive. They come from understanding how simple, natural foods can work with your body instead of against it, and choosing to use them consistently in your daily life. And this is where things get even more interesting, because there's a hidden system inside your body that most people never think about when it comes to heart health, your gut. Right now, inside your digestive system, there are trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and other microbes, collectively known as your gut microbiome. And while most people associate the gut with digestion, this ecosystem is actually deeply connected to your cardiovascular system in ways that are only now being fully understood. Because your gut doesn't just process food, it processes signals. It interacts with your immune system, your hormones, and even the chemistry of your blood. And when your gut is out of balance, it can quietly create the perfect conditions for arterial plaque to form and progress. One of the biggest ways this happens is through inflammation. A healthy gut lining acts like a protective barrier. It allows nutrients to pass through into your bloodstream while keeping harmful substances out. But when the gut becomes damaged, a condition often referred to as increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut, that barrier starts to break down. When this happens, tiny particles like toxins, undigested food fragments, and bacterial components can slip into your bloodstream. Your immune system sees these as threats and responds by triggering inflammation, and not just in your gut, throughout your entire body. That chronic, low-grade inflammation becomes one of the key drivers of arterial damage. It irritates the inner lining of your blood vessels, making them more vulnerable to cholesterol deposits and plaque formation. So even if your cholesterol levels aren't extremely high, a compromised gut can still accelerate plaque buildup by creating an inflammatory environment. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. Your gut bacteria also directly influence how your body processes certain nutrients, especially compounds found in foods like red meat, eggs, and dairy. When certain types of gut bacteria break down these nutrients, they produce a substance called TMA, which is then converted by your liver into TMAO. Elevated levels of TMAO have been strongly associated with an increased risk of atherosclerosis, which is the buildup of plaque in your arteries. What's fascinating is that not everyone produces TMAO at the same rate. It largely depends on the composition of your gut microbiome. Two people can eat the exact same meal, and one may produce high levels of TMAO, while the other produces very little. That means your gut bacteria are essentially influencing how heart-friendly or heart-harmful certain foods become inside your body. Now here's where it becomes powerful, because this is something you can change. The types of bacteria in your gut are not fixed. They respond to what you eat, how you live, how you sleep, and even how you manage stress. If your diet is high in processed foods, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats, you tend to feed the bacteria that promote inflammation and harmful metabolites like TMAO. But when your diet is rich in fiber, plant-based foods, and natural compounds, you feed beneficial bacteria that produce anti-inflammatory substances. One of the most important of these substances is something called short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. These compounds are produced when beneficial gut bacteria ferment dietary fiber, and they have a profound effect on your health. They help strengthen the gut lining, reducing permeability and preventing harmful substances from entering your bloodstream. They also have direct anti-inflammatory effects, calming your immune system and reducing the kind of chronic inflammation that damages your arteries. And it doesn't stop there. Short-chain fatty acids also influence cholesterol metabolism, blood sugar regulation, and even blood pressure. They help create an internal environment that is far less supportive of plaque formation. So when you improve your gut health, you're not just helping digestion, you're actively protecting your arteries from multiple angles. Another important factor is how your gut microbiome interacts with bile acids. Bile acids are produced by your liver and help digest fats, but they also play a role in regulating cholesterol levels. Your gut bacteria modify these bile acids, influencing how they are recycled and how much cholesterol is removed from your body. A balanced microbiome supports this process, helping your body eliminate excess cholesterol more efficiently. But an imbalanced microbiome can disrupt it, leading to higher circulating cholesterol and a greater risk of plaque buildup. And then there's the connection between gut health and blood sugar. When your gut microbiome is out of balance, it can contribute to insulin resistance. This means your body has a harder time controlling blood sugar levels, leading to more frequent spikes. Those spikes don't just affect energy levels, they damage your arteries. High blood sugar increases oxidative stress and inflammation, both of which play a major role in plaque formation. Over time, this creates a cycle where poor gut health leads to blood sugar problems, which then accelerate arterial damage. Now think about how all of these pieces connect. A compromised gut increases inflammation. It alters how your body processes nutrients. It affects cholesterol metabolism. It disrupts blood sugar control. And all of these factors converge on one outcome: increased risk of plaque buildup in your arteries. But just like we talked about earlier with garlic and olive oil, the power here is in what you can do about it. Because improving your gut health doesn't require anything extreme or complicated. It comes down to consistent, daily habits that support a healthy microbiome. One of the most effective things you can do is increase your intake of fiber-rich foods. Vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds all provide the kind of fiber that beneficial bacteria thrive on. This is what fuels the production of those protective short-chain fatty acids. And variety matters. Different types of fiber feed different types of bacteria. So the more diverse your diet, the more diverse and resilient your microbiome becomes. Fermented foods are another powerful tool. Foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi contain live bacteria that can help support a healthy gut environment. They introduce beneficial microbes and can help rebalance your microbiome over time. Even small, regular amounts can make a difference. And then there are polyphenols, the same types of compounds we talked about in olive oil. These are found in foods like berries, green tea, dark chocolate, and many plant-based foods. Polyphenols act as fuel for beneficial bacteria while also reducing inflammation and oxidative stress. So again, you see this pattern. Foods that support your gut also support your arteries. Because everything in your body is connected. Your gut is not isolated from your heart. It's constantly communicating with it, influencing it, shaping the environment in which your cardiovascular system operates. And this also means that things that harm your gut can indirectly harm your heart. Frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods, excessive sugar, chronic stress, poor sleep, and overuse of antibiotics can all disrupt your microbiome. When that balance is lost, harmful bacteria can start to dominate, increasing inflammation and producing compounds that negatively affect your cardiovascular health. So this becomes not just about adding good things, but also about reducing the things that create imbalance in the first place. And here's something important to understand. You don't need to completely overhaul your life overnight. Small, consistent changes are incredibly powerful. Adding more fiber to your meals, including fermented foods regularly, choosing whole, minimally processed foods, managing stress as best as you can, prioritizing sleep. These are not extreme interventions, but they create a ripple effect throughout your body. They shift your microbiome in a healthier direction. They reduce inflammation. They improve metabolic function. And over time, they create conditions that are far less favorable for plaque formation. And just like plaque builds slowly over time, healing also happens gradually. Your body is constantly adapting. When you give it the right inputs, it responds. Your gut bacteria begin to change. Your inflammation levels begin to decrease. Your blood vessels begin to function more efficiently. And all of this contributes to better cardiovascular health. Because at the end of the day, your arteries are not just affected by one single factor. They are influenced by a network of systems, and your gut sits right at the center of that network. So when you take care of your gut, you're not just improving digestion, you're influencing your immune system, your metabolism, your blood chemistry, and ultimately, the health of your arteries in ways that most people never even realize are happening beneath the surface. And this is another piece of the puzzle that most people completely overlook. Because when we talk about heart disease, the conversation almost always circles back to cholesterol. But there's a deeper driver quietly accelerating damage inside your arteries every single day, and that's blood sugar. Not just chronically high blood sugar, but the constant spikes and crashes that happen throughout the day, depending on what you eat, how often you eat, and how your body responds to insulin. Because every time your blood sugar rises sharply, it doesn't just give you a temporary burst of energy. It creates a chain reaction inside your body that directly affects your blood vessels. To understand this, you have to look at what happens at the cellular level. When you eat foods that are high in refined carbohydrates or sugar, things like white bread, sugary drinks, pastries, or ultra-processed snacks, your blood glucose levels rise quickly. Your body responds by releasing insulin, a hormone that helps move glucose out of your bloodstream and into your cells. Now, this process is completely normal. It's how your body is designed to function. But the problem begins when this cycle happens too frequently, too intensely, and over long periods of time. Because repeated blood sugar spikes lead to repeated insulin surges, and over time, your cells start to become less responsive to insulin. This condition is known as insulin resistance. When insulin resistance develops, your body has to produce more and more insulin just to keep blood sugar under control. And even then, blood sugar levels tend to stay elevated for longer periods. And this is where the damage begins to accelerate. High blood sugar levels increase something called oxidative stress. This means there's an excess of reactive molecules in your body that can damage cells, proteins, and DNA. Your blood vessels are particularly vulnerable to this kind of damage. The inner lining of your arteries, known as the endothelium, is delicate. It plays a critical role in regulating blood flow, controlling inflammation, and maintaining overall vascular health. But when it's exposed to repeated spikes in blood sugar, it starts to become damaged. Glucose molecules can attach to proteins in a process called glycation. This leads to the formation of harmful compounds known as advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These compounds stiffen the arterial walls, reduce their elasticity, and trigger inflammation. So instead of having flexible, responsive blood vessels, you end up with arteries that are more rigid, more inflamed, and more prone to injury. And once the endothelium is damaged, it becomes much easier for LDL cholesterol to penetrate the arterial wall. This is a critical step in plaque formation, because now, cholesterol is no longer just circulating in your bloodstream, it's getting trapped inside the artery wall, where it can become oxidized and trigger an immune response. Your body sees this as a problem and sends immune cells to the area. These cells try to clean up the cholesterol, but in the process, they become filled with lipids and turn into what are known as foam cells. These foam cells accumulate and form the early stages of plaque. So you can start to see how blood sugar and insulin resistance are not separate from heart disease. They are deeply intertwined with it. But it doesn't stop there. Insulin resistance also affects your lipid profile in ways that promote plaque buildup. It tends to increase levels of triglycerides and reduce levels of HDL, the good cholesterol. It also promotes the formation of small, dense LDL particles, which are more likely to penetrate the arterial wall and become oxidized. So even if your total cholesterol doesn't look dramatically elevated, the quality and behavior of those particles may be shifting in a more harmful direction. And then there's the effect on inflammation. High insulin levels and insulin resistance are associated with chronic, low-grade inflammation. This creates an environment where plaque is more likely to form, grow, and become unstable. Because remember, it's not just the presence of plaque that matters, it's the stability of that plaque. Inflamed plaque is more likely to rupture, and that rupture can trigger a blood clot that blocks blood flow, leading to a heart attack or stroke. So when you have a combination of endothelial damage, oxidative stress, unhealthy lipid changes, and chronic inflammation, all driven by blood sugar dysregulation, you're essentially accelerating the entire process of arterial plaque development. Now here's where it becomes even more important to pay attention. You don't have to be diagnosed with diabetes for this to be happening. In fact, many people spend years, sometimes decades, in a state of mild insulin resistance without realizing it. Their fasting blood sugar might still fall within a normal range, but their body is already struggling to manage glucose effectively. They experience energy crashes after meals, cravings for sugar or carbs, difficulty losing weight, especially around the abdomen, and gradually increasing markers like triglycerides or fasting insulin. All of these are early warning signs that something is off. And during this time, damage to the arteries can already be occurring. This is why focusing only on cholesterol numbers can be misleading, because if you're not addressing blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity, you may be missing one of the most important drivers of cardiovascular risk. Now the good news is that this is highly responsive to lifestyle changes. Your body is incredibly adaptable. When you start to stabilize your blood sugar, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce those sharp spikes, you create a completely different internal environment, one that is far less damaging to your arteries. One of the most effective ways to do this is by paying attention to the types of carbohydrates you consume. Not all carbs are the same. Highly refined carbohydrates are rapidly absorbed, leading to quick spikes in blood sugar. But whole, fiber-rich carbohydrates are digested more slowly, resulting in a more gradual rise. That slower rise gives your body time to respond without overwhelming the system. It reduces the intensity of insulin release and minimizes the kind of stress that damages your blood vessels. Another important factor is how you combine foods. Eating carbohydrates on their own tends to produce a sharper spike, but when you combine them with protein, healthy fats, and fiber, the absorption slows down. This leads to a more stable blood sugar response. Even something as simple as adding healthy fats like olive oil or including protein with your meals can make a noticeable difference. Timing and frequency of meals also play a role. Constant snacking, especially on processed or sugary foods, keeps your blood sugar elevated throughout the day. This gives your body very little time to reset. Spacing out meals and allowing your body to return to baseline can help improve insulin sensitivity over time. Physical activity is another powerful tool. When you move your body, your muscles use glucose for energy. This helps lower blood sugar levels and makes your cells more responsive to insulin. Even a short walk after a meal can significantly reduce the spike in blood sugar. Over time, regular movement improves metabolic health and reduces the burden on your arteries. Sleep and stress are also deeply connected to blood sugar regulation. Lack of sleep and chronic stress increase levels of cortisol, a hormone that raises blood sugar and promotes insulin resistance. So even if your diet is relatively good, poor sleep or high stress can still disrupt your metabolic balance. And again, this feeds back into the same cycle: higher blood sugar, more inflammation, greater risk of arterial damage. So when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that blood sugar control is not just about avoiding diabetes. It's about protecting your blood vessels from continuous, invisible damage. It's about maintaining the integrity of your arterial walls. It's about reducing the processes that lead to plaque formation in the first place. And just like with everything we've talked about so far, this is not about perfection. It's about patterns. What you do consistently shapes how your body functions. If your daily habits lead to repeated blood sugar spikes, your body adapts in a way that promotes damage. But if your habits support stable blood sugar and good insulin sensitivity, your body shifts toward protection and repair. Your arteries stay more flexible, your inflammation levels decrease, your risk of plaque buildup slows down. And over time, these small, consistent changes create a powerful impact on your overall cardiovascular health.